Sony.
What lens?
Big Daddy lens.
For years, the WNBA operated as a niche enterprise, struggling to secure a billion-dollar future or a global audience. The arrival of Caitlin Clark changed that trajectory. As a transformative talent, Clark brought an unprecedented level of visibility to the league, yet the following 2 years were marked by internal friction, gatekeeping, and what many observers characterized as professional sabotage. Prior to 2024, WNBA attendance was often sparse, arenas were quiet, and tickets were easily accessible. With Clark's entry into the league, these venues saw immediate sellouts and record-breaking demand. The league shifted from a period of low engagement to a primary focus of national sports media in a single weekend. While this surge in interest suggested a significant victory for league leadership, the internal response proved more complicated. The viewership figures were historic. The 2024 College Championship game drew 18.9 million viewers, surpassing the NBA Finals, the World Series, and the Masters. This audience followed Clark to the Indiana Fever, providing the WNBA with its most significant cultural moment in decades. However, as she transitioned to the professional level, the environment became increasingly hostile. Early in her rookie season, Clark was subjected to a level of physical play that appeared to exceed typical veteran-on-rookie hazing. Frequent uncalled fouls, including a high-profile non-basketball hit by Kennedy Carter that occurred while the ball was out of play, drew widespread criticism. The reaction from opposing benches, which occasionally included cheering after these hits, suggested a resentment toward the new audience and the attention Clark represented. The 2024 Paris Olympics presented an opportunity for the league to capitalize on Clark's popularity on a global stage. Analysts and sponsors expected her inclusion on the U.S. roster, yet her name was missing from the final selection. This decision was met with intense public backlash. While the selection committee cited a lack of professional experience, critics pointed to previous rookies like Breanna Stewart and Candace Parker, who were included in Olympic rosters during their first seasons. The snub was viewed by many as an effort to protect the status of veteran players at the expense of the sport's commercial growth. Commissioner Cathy Engelbert faced criticism for her handling of these tensions. While the league's most prominent asset was being physically targeted and professionally sidelined, Engelbert maintained a neutral stance, defending the independence of the selection process. By 2025, reports of a player revolt against Engelbert emerged. While rumors of private confrontations circulated, the financial reality remained consistent. The surge in media interest and the resulting new media deals were tied directly to the viewership Clark generated. Despite these internal conflicts, the economic impact of the Clark effect was undeniable. By 2026, the new collective bargaining agreement reflected a massive increase in league wealth. Team salary caps rose from $1.5 million to $7 million, significantly increasing the earnings of every player in the league. The player who had faced the most resistance from the established inner circle ultimately funded the league's expansion and the financial security of its veterans for the coming decade. The friction of the last 2 years raises questions about the WNBA's relationship with its new fan base. While the league initially appeared to resist the rapid changes brought by Clark's arrival, the financial and cultural momentum proved too great to contain. The 2024 and 2025 seasons revealed a deep division within the league's leadership as they navigated a future they seemed unprepared to embrace. The story of the Olympic snub has passed, but the tension between the traditional guard and the new era of women's basketball remains. The logistical evolution of the league became a primary focus during the 2024 season, as the sheer scale of public interest rendered previous travel standards obsolete. For decades, WNBA players traveled on commercial flights, often navigating public terminals and dealing with the physical toll of standard seating. The security concerns surrounding the 2024 rookie class, specifically the crowds following the Indiana Fever and Chicago Sky, forced a permanent shift. The league's mandate for full-season charter flights was not merely a luxury upgrade, it was a defensive necessity. This change cost the league approximately $25 million annually, a figure that would have been unthinkable 3 years prior but was now viewed as a baseline operating expense for a major professional sport. This infrastructure shift coincided with a transformation in the WNBA's player development and marketing strategies. The class of 2024 did more than provide a single star. It created a multipolar rivalry system that mirrored the NBA's growth in the 1980s. While Clark dominated the perimeter and the highlight reels, Angel Reese established a parallel narrative in Chicago. Reese's record-breaking double-double streak and her ability to draw a distinct, younger demographic created a competitive friction that media outlets leveraged for record ratings. The Indiana-Chicago matchups became the league's new gold standard, consistently outperforming midweek MLB and NHL broadcasts. This rivalry validated the idea that the league's growth was not a fluke centered on one individual, but a systemic revaluation of women's basketball as a whole. By the start of the 2025 season, the focus shifted from attendance to valuation. The announcement of the Golden State Valkyries as an expansion team signaled a new era of ownership. The expansion fee for the Valkyries was estimated at $50 million, but by the time Toronto and Portland were awarded franchises for the 2026 season, that price tag had reportedly tripled. Private equity and tech sector billionaires began viewing WNBA franchises not as philanthropic ventures or community assets, but as high-growth tech-adjacent investments. This influx of capital led to the construction of dedicated practice facilities in cities like Seattle, Las Vegas, and Chicago, further separating the elite organizations from those still relying on shared college gymnasiums. The media rights negotiations of 2025 served as the ultimate proof of the league's new leverage. Historically, WNBA rights were bundled with the NBA's, often treated as a secondary asset in a larger package. The 2025 negotiations saw a significant decoupling. With Disney, Amazon, and NBC competing for live sports content, the WNBA's value was assessed independently. The resulting 11-year deal, worth an estimated $200 million per year, represented a 300% increase over the previous agreement. This revenue stream became the foundation for the 2026 collective bargaining agreement, providing the capital necessary to address long-standing grievances regarding player salaries and retirement benefits. As the financial ceiling rose, so did the standard of play. The 2025 season saw a tactical shift across the league. Coaches were forced to adapt to the Logo 3 era, extending defenses and emphasizing pace and space offenses that had previously been more common in the men's game. The presence of generational shooters like Clark and versatile bigs like Aja Wilson created a more dynamic, faster-paced product. Wilson, in particular, responded to the influx of new talent by delivering a historic MVP season in 2024, reminding the public that while the rookies were the story, the veterans remained the standard of excellence. This internal competition prevented the league from becoming a one-note narrative and forced every roster to improve or face obsolescence. The offseason also underwent a radical transformation. For years, the majority of WNBA players spent their winters playing in Europe or Asia to supplement their incomes. This carried significant risks, as seen in the 2022 detention of Brittany Griner. In response to the new domestic revenue, stars Nafisa Collier and Breanna Stewart launched Unrivaled, a high-stakes 3-on-3 league based in Miami. By offering six-figure salaries for a short winter season, Unrivaled allowed top players to stay in the United States, maintain their fitness, and grow their personal brands without the logistical and political risks of playing abroad. This shift marked the end of the WNBA's part-time era, as top-tier players could finally afford to be full-time domestic athletes. The marketing landscape for individual players expanded at an even faster rate than the league's revenue. Clark's Nike deal, reportedly worth up to $28 million, set a new precedent for women's sports endorsements. Gatorade, State Farm, and Panini followed suit, signaling that corporations were ready to invest in female athletes as global ambassadors. This created a significant income gap between the league's top stars and the rank-and-file players, a tension that became a central theme of the 2026 CBA negotiations. The players' union sought to ensure that the rising tide of sponsorship didn't just benefit the top 1%, but led to a higher minimum salary and better health insurance for every roster spot. The 2026 collective bargaining agreement was the culmination of this two-year upheaval. When the players opted out of the previous deal in late 2024, it was seen as a high-risk move. However, by 2026, the league's revenue growth made the players' demands for a 50-50 revenue share seem reasonable rather than radical. The resulting agreement saw the salary cap jump from $1.5 million to $7 million per team. This allowed for the first true supermax contracts in women's basketball history, with top players earning base salaries exceeding $500,000. For the first time, a WNBA career was not just a prestigious pursuit, but a highly lucrative one. Expansion continued to drive the narrative into 2026. The introduction of the Toronto franchise marked the league's first permanent move into the international market. The success of the 2024 exhibition game in Edmonton had proven that Canadian fans were eager for the WNBA product. The league's leadership began scouting locations in Mexico City and London, eyeing a future where the WNBA would operate as a global brand rather than a domestic league. This international focus was bolstered by the 2024 Olympics, where despite the controversy surrounding Clark's absence, the dominance of the U.S. women's team reinforced the unmatched depth of the American talent pool. The shift in viewership demographics also stabilized by 2026. The new fans who arrived in 2024 did not depart after the initial hype. Data showed a significant increase in male viewers and younger audiences, particularly in the 18 to 34 demographic. These fans brought a different energy to the sport, characterized by a more aggressive, social media-driven engagement style. While this led to some friction with the league's traditional fan base, it also drove the digital metrics that advertisers prize. The WNBA's social media engagement rates in 2025 were the highest of any professional sports league in the world, adjusted for scale. Critically, the 2025 and 2026 seasons proved that the league could survive and thrive amidst internal conflict. The tensions between the old guard and the new arrivals did not destroy the league. Instead, they created a compelling soap opera that kept the sport in the daily news cycle. The debates over officiating, roster selection, and media coverage provided a level of year-round discourse that the league had previously lacked. Professional sports require more than just high-level play. They require storylines, villains, and heroes. The WNBA finally had all three in abundance. The role of Commissioner Kathy Engelbert remained a point of contention through 2026. While she oversaw the most profitable period in the league's history, her cautious approach to social issues and player safety continued to draw fire from the union. The reports of a player revolt in late 2025 highlighted a fundamental disconnect between a corporate leadership focused on incremental growth and a player base that felt the league was still moving too slowly to protect and promote its stars. This internal struggle for the soul of the league became a defining feature of the era, as the WNBA attempted to transition from a social justice-focused organization to a high-revenue entertainment property. As the 2026 season progressed, the focus returned to the court. The class of 2024 was no longer a group of rookies. They were established stars leading their own franchises. The Indiana Fever, after years in the lottery, became a perennial playoff contender. The Las Vegas Aces and New York Liberty, once the undisputed titans of the league, faced legitimate threats from the rebuilt rosters in Chicago, Los Angeles, and Golden State. The parity in the league improved as the increased salary cap allowed for more movement and free agency, breaking the super team model that had dominated the early 2020s. The technical proficiency of the game reached new heights. Shooting percentages from beyond the arc increased league-wide as teams prioritized perimeter skill sets. The 2026 draft saw another influx of talent, with players who had grown up watching the 2024 explosion and modeling their games after the new generation of stars. The Caitlin Clark effect had successfully filtered down to the youth and collegiate levels, ensuring a pipeline of talent that was more prepared for the professional game than any previous generation. The financial health of the league was further evidenced by the rise in team valuations. In 2023, the average WNBA team was valued at approximately $15 million. By the midpoint of 2026, several franchises were appraised at over $200 million. This growth outpaced any other professional sports league over the same period. The WNBA had moved from the margins of the sports world to the center of the conversation about the future of media and entertainment. The story of the WNBA from 2024 to 2026 is one of a forced evolution. The league did not necessarily choose to change. It was compelled to by a convergence of talent, media interest, and cultural shift. The key that was handed to the league in the form of Caitlin Clark was initially handled with hesitation, but the sheer force of the market eventually overrode the internal resistance. The sabotage and gatekeeping of 2024 became the catalyst for the professionalization and wealth building of 2026. The league that emerged from this period was unrecognizable compared to the one that existed just 3 years prior. It was wealthier, more popular, and more volatile, reflecting the reality of a premier global sports league. Ultimately, the transition confirmed that women's basketball was a massive, untapped market. The obstacles placed in Clark's path did not diminish her impact. They only heightened the drama and attracted more viewers. The veterans who initially resisted the change ended up as its primary beneficiaries, seeing their careers extended and their bank accounts filled by the very new fans they once viewed with skepticism. The WNBA's path forward is now clear. Built on a foundation of high-level talent and massive media investment, the war for the soul of the league may continue, but the battle for its survival and success has been won. The only remaining question is how far the league is willing to go to meet the demands of a global audience that is finally paying attention.